Lamar Jackson says he's going to spend his halftime matchup against the Texans watching Beyonce perform during the halftime show.
This marks the first time Beyonce will perform songs from the Grammy-nominated album live.
Yee! These chords along with this melody line? Woo-hoo-hoo!
I know the majority of us were watching Beyonce's halftime show on Christmas Day, and since then I have been trying to find out more about the visuals and the fashions at the show. I've been Googling for weeks, guys. I have not been able to find anything, and as I'm sure we all know, Beyonce is always very thoughtful about her performances, and I was just feeling so much messaging through this performance. So I did some digging, and I'm here to share with you everything I've been able to find out about the fashions of the show and some of the deeper references. This video is going to be mainly focused on the fashions though, and about what she wore, what the dancers were wearing, all the things. We're going to go through it all. To be honest, this video was triggered by some of the rhetoric I've been seeing online about Beyonce essentially cosplaying as a cowboy and it being very inauthentic. And not only is that perspective ill-informed, a bit ignorant, but it's actually quite offensive, and we're going to start with why. Beyonce used this halftime performance to do her first ever performance of Cowboy Carter, which has been mostly labelled as a country album, although this isn't something that she said herself, and is a journey through a reinvention of Americana, spotlighting the overlooked contributions of Black pioneers to American musical and cultural history. So there has been quite a lot of what is, in my opinion, unnecessary controversies around this album, but essentially Beyonce wanted to explore some of her family roots through music. She's from Texas. I'm sure you guys don't need me to break down all the Beyonce lore. I will put some links in the description for you guys if you wanted to learn a bit more about the history of Cowboy Carter and Beyonce's heritage and cultural background and all the things. But basically, she used this performance to come out for the first time to perform Cowboy Carter. And the general running themes through Cowboy Carter were Western culture, the history of Black cowboys, rodeos, and Southern culture. So before we get into some of her more specific looks, I thought it might be helpful to give a bit of background on the history of the Black cowboy. So when we think of cowboys, we often picture the iconic image of a white, rugged, solitary figure galloping through open plains. But there is another story that has been generally forgotten and suppressed, and that is the story of the Black cowboy. Although Black men were often overlooked in popular narrative, they were instrumental in shaping the history of the American West. Around 25% of all cowboys were Black. An estimated 5,000 to 10,000 men and women who rode the range, tended cattle, and helped build the frontier. And in fact, the term cowboy was actually a term derogatorily used to describe the Black male workers. In Texas, white ranchers were referred to as cowhands, and Black men in the same position were referred to as the cowboy. Black cowhands were typically assigned to handle horses with poor temperaments and wild behaviours, a career known as horse breaking. Many Black cowboys were part of a larger, more invisible community, those who worked as ranch hands, cooks, teamsters, and in other crucial roles that kept the cattle industry running. They were hard-working men carrying out lives in an unforgiving landscape, yet their stories are often overlooked and erased. And it wasn't just the men who played a role in this history. Black women also worked in the frontier, some even riding alongside men as cowgirls and ranchers. In recent times, Beyonce has used Ivy Park Rodeo, Cowboy Carter, and now the NFL Halftime Show to shine a light on this forgotten part of American history. So now we have a bit of context. Let's get into the show. So the show took place at the Houston NRG Stadium and was 13 minutes long and included 504 individual performers. These looks were created by Beyonce's head stylist, Shiona Tarini, who was supported by Molly Peters, who assisted with styling specialist characters like Beyonce's house band, the Texan Cheerleaders, the Cowboys, Cowgirls, and more, and Anne-Marie Hong, who supported with all the dancers, bands, majorettes, choir, and musicians. Opening the show, Beyonce enters singing 16 Carriages on a horse wearing an oversized cowboy hat, and she looks absolutely stunning, guys. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The cowboy hat is designed by brand ASN, who are a Texan sister duo.
Sisters Alejandra Georgievich and Ise Navarez, originally from Texas, designed the hat the 32-time Grammy winner wore for the show. They started selling their product at local markets in 2018. Beyonce's team reached out earlier this year, and it's been history ever since.
And her coat is Cavalli. Roberto Cavalli is known for his innovative use of fur in his designs and is also known for his animal print on leather and textiles. So actually, when she first starts singing, it's a bit hard to see that she's actually on a horse. You know, she sounds sublime, sounds like perfection. So just by listening, you probably wouldn't realize that she's actually moving, but she's on this horse. So I won't go into all of the cultural references throughout all of this performance because, guys, we will be here forever. Everything about this performance was so well thought out, so complex, but it is really hard to talk about the fashion without talking about some of the historical undertones and cultural references that she uses throughout the performance. So I'll probably cover what I think is the most significant cultural references, but happy to do another video if you guys want to hear more about all of that kind of stuff. But basically, she's on top of a white horse, and this horse is called a Lipizan horse, and Lipizan horses are born with black skin and dark eyes, and their coats get lighter each year. They're actually not true white horses, as white horses are born white and have unpigmented skin. And so I think her wearing white on the white horse all has some references to the symbolization of cowboy culture being whitewashed and the whitewashing of the cowboy, which I find really interesting.
There are many representations and mythological backings when it comes to white horses, which includes the association with warrior heroes or riding in on a white horse to save the day. It can also refer to the American spirit and the pursuit of success, fame, and freedom.
And she's guided on this horse by a cowboy who has on a hat that's kind of covering the majority of his face, and he's wearing blue jeans and some cowboy boots. These jeans are Willy Chavarria denim, and Willy Chavarria is a Mexican-American fashion designer from California, and he's known for his distinct interpretation of men's fashion, mixing race, politics, and sexuality into graceful and elegant apparel. As soon as I saw the cowboy leading the horse, I definitely got Mexican cowboy feels from him. He's definitely a bit more restrained than Beyonce, so it actually took me a few times watching this opening scene to actually really see him, because my full attention was on Beyonce on this horse. And Shiona recently shared with Harper Bazaar that this hat was actually a hat connected to a scarf. So the bandana and the hat are kind of connected, and it was designed by a young eBay seller, and I just think he looks so cool, so swaggy. I mean, I can really understand why this performance upset people, because there is just a certain je ne sais quoi about black, brown culture that really cannot be imitated. And I just love the way this whole scene looked. I love the, you know, the jacket that he's got on. I love that he looks as though he's kind of in control of the horse. I was never worried that she's going to fall off the horse or anything like that, but the focus is still on her. And they walk through this scene with the American flag, and they're surrounded by 16 Cadillacs, which I think is a nod to the song, but also a reference to Black American culture's love of the Cadillac. And the history of the Cadillac is really complex and definitely worth a deeper look into if you guys are interested. But essentially, before the Great Depression, there was a time where there was an unwritten rule that dealerships would not sell Cadillacs to black people, and this approach shifted a bit after the Great Depression, when the brand was on the verge of collapse and they realized that prestige wasn't necessarily based on whiteness. As a consequence, a lot of black people bought the car and basically revived the brand, and it's actually a very interesting story.
Nicholas Dreistad, who was a GM executive originally from Germany, went out to Cadillac dealerships and realized something very interesting was going on. He noticed that affluent Black Americans were purchasing Cadillacs in record numbers, but because of the racial discrimination that was occurring in those dealerships, they were actually using white people to purchase on their behalf. Drake's that strategy was implemented in 1934, and Cadillac saw a 70% increase in sales as a result of it.
I do think that throughout the performance, Beyonce does, with her outfits, with what the band's wearing, what all the dancers are wearing, she does a really, really good job at being very, very cheeky. Because if you really think about it, she's kind of speaking to a time where people that looked like her wouldn't be able to buy a Cadillac. But then she's bought 16. I really enjoyed a lot of the cheeky nose thumbing that she does throughout this whole performance. With time in mind, I'm just going to focus on some of the main outfits. But between the time that she finishes 16 carriages and the time that she meets up with the other ladies, there is a little clip of, you know, cowboys standing on horses. That's a cultural reference. And even the people singing under the veils, also cultural reference, like very much a nod to her ancestors. Edited me here, and I wanted to explain a bit more about these women who are singing with their heads covered, because I did mention that I think that this is a reference to her ancestors. And in doing some of my research for this video, I found this Western Nigerian festival called the Ayo Masquerade. Essentially, it's a festival that honors the life of the Oba, the king of Lagos, and commemorates the election of a new leader. And in the festival, these masqueraders represent spirits of the ancestors. The designs of the hat and the sticks are passed down through generations. So I thought that was so interesting. Beyonce did celebrate her West African heritage a lot as part of Lemonade, so I'm definitely certain these ladies are ancestors. And actually, I've been seeing a lot of conversation around the performance being demonic or spiritual, and the way that some parts of society have worked really hard to demonize African spiritualism is really interesting to me, and is actually probably another conversation for another day. But guys, this is the reference. And she's kind of walking along this flag, walking into this new era where she meets up with the country singers Tana Ardell, Brittany Spencer, Raina Roberts and Tierra Kennedy. And they're wearing Dolce & Gabbana. And guys, I did not see all of this performance on Christmas Day. I missed part of it. But when I woke up the next day on Boxing Day, I saw this clip of her walking with the ladies whilst I was in bed. And guys, I immediately started crying. Tears were automatic. I absolutely love this. I think that they look so beautiful, guys. Ethereal. I'm loving all of the draping, even though they're all different heights and sizes. I think what they're wearing suits them all, kind of accentuates their waist but kind of complements their faces. Everything about this scene, even the fact that Beyonce has on fur, but everything that they're wearing kind of moves in the same way, even though she has on a different texture. And at this point, I kind of realized that there would be a white theme. And I think the use of the white theme is really, really effective. White often symbolizes the concept of purity, cleanliness, and goodness. But not only that, a bit further on in the performance, when they're kind of doing a bit of a dance scenario, it really gave me White Party. I think the use of white has loads of different references, but I think it definitely includes the white party. I think for Black culture, and not just Black American culture, the white party is a thing, right? I literally just went to a white party in Dubai like a few months ago. Right, it's a thing we like to do, and so I definitely got even celebratory vibes from everybody wearing all white. I really, really enjoyed the way that it looked. The girls looked beautiful. Then she leaves them, and of course I'm in tears, blurry-eyed, can't really see much. But the next scene opens with her on a carriage, and this carriage is also a cultural reference, with the flowers draped around the wheels, is a reference to the early Juneteenth parades held in Emancipation Park in Houston's 3rd Ward. And she's wearing a custom outfit from Lindsay James Show Clothing and jewelry from Lorraine Schwartz and shoes by Christian Louboutin. Lindsay James Show Clothing is a small southern business, and as with the use of the eBay seller, I'm really enjoying the fact that they didn't only use really high-end, more known designers. and really took the time to source pieces from smaller designers, smaller businesses. And they say a lot of the time on YouTube, like, you never know who's watching. And I think it really rings true here that as long as you're moving in your purpose, anything is possible. I saw on Instagram where Lindsay James Show Clothing did a little post about, you know, being happy for the opportunity to work with Beyonce. And I'm sure many of these creatives never thought that it would be in their future. So I just find it really motivating. I love the fact that they made use of smaller businesses, and her custom belt buckle is made by Ukrainian brand Frolov, which is a couture to wear brand. And I think there's some political messaging here. I don't think that any of the choices made in this performance were coincidental. So I definitely think that there was a reason for picking a Ukrainian brand and showing support to them in that way. I really like her performance outfit. I'm loving all of the silver detailing all over it. Kind of adds some dimension and some texture to her outfit. Definitely gives kind of like a main performer, center of attention vibes. Of course, guys, she looks so beautiful. Love the chaps, and the outfit is still very Beyonce, but she doesn't look uncomfortable. She doesn't look like she's wearing something that isn't her personality or isn't suited to her. So I really like what she has on. And then she's joined by the dancers and the band, and for their looks there's quite a lot of use of fringing and fur, and yellow sweatpants with added fringing was used for some of the men's looks, and some of the fur outfits referenced Pimp C. And there were actually quite a lot of Texas culture references throughout what the band and the dancers are wearing. There is a point in the performance where 3 band members do a flip and they're all wearing fur, and as soon as I saw them, I definitely got like Pimp C, Houston rapper kind of vibes from them. I actually really love it, guys. 1, it looks beautiful, but 2, they just look so confident. I love the use of the band. I think it was so effective at Coachella or Beachella, and I'm loving all of the cross-genre references. You know, she's singing more country-like music, but isn't afraid to reach into rap or hip-hop referencing in the performance. So I really love that. I think that they look beautiful. And for any of you guys who don't know, Pimp C is a Houston rapper and record producer who helped define Southern rap, and there's actually a picture of him that looks exactly like these dancers, you know, in all white fur, looking very expensive. I love that. I love it. I love that. And then some of the cowgirls, I noted that they don't really have on as much fur. They're kind of wearing more body conscious, leotardy kind of looks, although I can see they've kind of split them up. So there are some of the female dancers that are wearing like the fur chaps, but some of them are wearing the more leotardish outfits, which I think having both, having some texture and having more of the more body conscious outfits really works to add a bit of dimension to the performance. I did note though that a lot of them have a star on their leotard, and I think that this is a reference to the North Star. And in slave law, the North Star helped enslaved people to find their way to freedom by looking out for the Big Dipper. I do also think that this could be a reference to the American flag or the Black American flag. I did notice that inside of their star there seems to be more stars. So I'm loving the fact that they, you know, they're not just wearing white outfits for white outfits' sake, that there's even references in what kind of just looks like performance wear. The fur chaps, which I love, and which Beyonce seems to be quite fond of too. I have seen her wear these kind of chaps quite a few times in some of her promo, but these fur chaps, also known as woolies, are usually made from bear or Angora goat fur, and you'll find lots of historical pictures of black cowboys wearing these kind of chaps. I can see why, guys, because they are very much a vibe. I do really like them, especially when the band's dancing together. It adds a bit of dimension, but also really draws your eye in, and it looks really great. I can understand why the black cowboys are wearing them. Very nice. And so the part of the performance where the band's dancing, I also think is a cultural reference. I think Beyonce does in general, but definitely in this performance does a lot of what I think black women do often in their day-to-day life. I think we oftentimes have to be very thoughtful about how we say things so that the message is received, and I think that she does a really good job of sending a message in a really nice way. You know, she looks beautiful, sounds beautiful. There's all of this excellent performance going on, but also there's a really actually quite deep message that's amongst all of it. And along with the nose thumbing and the cheekiness, I think she just does nice nasty really, really well. Like she's got a nasty message for them, but she's doing it so nicely. I could definitely understand why those who got the message weren't happy with it. So I love the band. Come on, they just look so nice. I love the band, so talented. They sound great. They look great. The choreography is really, really good as well, and they all look very comfortable in their outfits, although there is actually quite a lot going on. And Shiona talks about that actually in her Harper Bazaar interview, about how difficult it was to make sure that everybody had everything they needed for all of their outfits, with there being hundreds of them needing to be dressed. But I think she did an excellent job in executing this performance. The next look that I wanted to talk about was Blue Ivy's. So Blue Ivy wore a Fro Love corset top with embellishments, a matching pair of pants, which if you look really close up at the pants, there's kind of slits running down the front of them, which I imagine is just to make sure that she's able to move properly. Kind of similar to Beyonce's chaps actually. Her main performance outfit, her chaps kind of has slits in them, which I'd imagine were just to make sure that she's able to move properly. And she wears a Kara boots and a Stetson cowboy hat. And Stetson has been creating quality products with roots in American tradition for over 150 years. I think Blue looks cute. She looks beautiful and comfortable in her outfit. I think that Beyonce Bowl was a beautiful celebration of fashion, music and history. I am certain I have not been able to touch on all of the fashion references. I have not touched on the collaborations with Shabuzi, Post Malone, and even some of the dancers had on outfits with skirts. There were so many special guests: the Mexican cowgirl Melanie Rivera, and Miss Rodeo Texas 2015 Nikki Woodward, and the first black rodeo queen in Arkansas, Judea Kirsch. So let me know what you think of this performance and all of the fashions down in the comments. I'm happy to do a part 2 to cover all of the pieces that I missed.